Aubergine chef. Now today we're going to be basically making the Libby's recipe pumpkin pie roll, or pumpkin roll. Now, when I was a kid, every year for Thanksgiving, Christmas, around that time, the holidays, my mom would make this really amazing pumpkin roll, and it was really, really good. Well, if you've ever seen that episode of Friends where Phoebe's grandmother or somebody makes really, really good cookies, and Monica really wants a secret recipe, when then it turns out to be Nestle Toll House's recipe, yeah, my mom's secret recipe turns out to be Libby's, popular pumpkin roll recipe. So, since it's so good, we're not going to change it. We're just going to use it as it is. I'm literally going to use it right from the label. So we're going to go ahead and make this pumpkin roll, and I'll show you how easy it is, so that way for your holidays, if you don't feel like making a pumpkin pie, you can make a pumpkin roll instead. So first thing you want to do is you want to get your sheet pan ready. I have mine greased. Grease it really well in the corners, and then line it with some parchment paper. I'm also preheating my oven to 375 degrees. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to weigh out our dry ingredients. Okay, now since this is from the Libby's recipe off the can, all the measurements are going to be in cups and teaspoons and stuff like that. And some of these measurements may be too small to actually weigh out in ounces. So what we're going to do is we're going to weigh it out as we go, as we measure. So first thing we need is 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour, which looks like it's about 4 ounces. Okay, now the rest of the dry ingredients are weighed out with a 1/2 teaspoon. So we're going to try and weigh it out. I don't think it's going to register in ounces, but we might be able to pull something up in grams. So we need 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. Comes up to be 1/8 of an ounce. Grams turns out to be 2 grams, or between 2 and 3 grams. It's bouncing back and forth in the scale, so it's really, really light. So everything else should be about between 2 and 3 grams, or 1/8 of an ounce. Another 1/2 teaspoon, and this one is baking soda. 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. That didn't even come up as 1/8 of an ounce, so it must be a little bit lighter than that. Yep, it's about 1 gram. 1 or 2 grams. And then a 1/2 teaspoon of ground cloves. Which is also coming up at 1 to 2 grams. And then we need a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'm not even going to weigh it out. Just a pinch of salt. Alright, and we're just going to set this aside, and we're going to go ahead and weigh out our next ingredients. Okay, we need a cup of sugar, or, let's see, 7 3/4 ounces. Now, the reason I'm using so many cups, or going back to measure so many times, is I'm using 1/3 of a cup and 1/4 of a cup instead of using a whole cup. I usually try to choose the smallest measure cup that I need if I ever have to use a recipe with cups and teaspoons and that and the other, so that way I can use as few cups as I can. So if I have, 1/3, in this recipe we need 2/3 a cup of pumpkin puree, so I'll pull out the 1/3 cup, and then if I ever need, a whole cup, I'll just measure out 3 times. So that way I don't have to, get the 1/2 cup out or the full cup out and measure and get those dirty as well. I can count to 3, so let's go ahead and keep things simple. Okay, and then we need 3 eggs. Go ahead and add that right to the bowl. Okay, let's go ahead and bring this over to the mixer. Okay, let's go ahead and it says to beat this until thick, so let's see what happens. Okay, so all of our ingredients are mixed together. It's still pretty loose, liquid-wise. So now we're going to go ahead and add in our pumpkin puree. So we need 2/3 cup pumpkin puree, or about 6 ounces. So we're going to go ahead and add that right to our eggs and sugar. Let's go ahead and mix this together. Okay, once the pumpkin is mixed all together, let's go ahead and add all of our dry ingredients. Okay, let's mix this on a very low speed. Let's go ahead and scrape the bowl. Alright, and let's go ahead and turn this out onto the sheet pan. Okay, so just go ahead and pour it out. And then we're going to go ahead and spread it evenly. Okay, once you have your sheet pan ready, go ahead and put it in the oven. Remember, we preheated our oven to 375 degrees. We're going to put this on the middle rack, and on the rack below it, we're going to place an empty sheet pan to help prevent it from burning on the bottom. Okay, and we're going to let that bake for about 13 to 15 minutes.